All right, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm Dr. Stacy Heimberger, and this is Weight Loss Made Simple. Today, I want to talk to you about something because every March, like around this time, I kind of see the same thing, and I feel it too, right? We feel a little behind. We feel a little tired. We maybe don't have as much motivation. Our energy just is not there, right? So September might things have like before September felt a little bit easier and it's kind of starts in September like this we start this wave of low energy and we get this little spike in January where you make these um resolutions and you set some goals and things seem to be going okay. And then around this time, the novelty of that is worn off. Maybe we're a little bit bored. Maybe we're doing amazing in our routine, but it's not new and exciting. And so our brain interprets that as just like boring. Boring, as my 7-year-old would say, right? And so we have this little dip in motivation and maybe it's still gray outside, and so the weather is not really with us, and we just feel a little blah, right? And there's some version of this that I hear all the time. And we start to internalize that as being lazy. And so, what I want to tell you is that this sort of winter slump is not laziness, it is just biology. Okay. So, we are going to interpret winter as not a character flaw. Winter is a season. And this feeling of low energy and low motivation is a season. It is not a character judgment. It is not a flaw. It is just a season. Our body is not really designed to perform all out all the time for an entire year, right? There are seasons to everything. Bears hibernate, right? They're expecting our bodies and our brain and our motivation and all these things to be exactly the same all year round is really unreasonable. And when we set ourselves up for that, we are setting ourselves up to feel failure. And if you have done nothing with me these last few months, what we are trying to do this year is really stop that idea of failure, because the spiral that creates, the shame spiral, the internal dialogue that then leads to over restriction and more failures, right? Like more of not being able to stick with it. This evidence that our brain gathers can be really detrimental, and it kind of increases our cortisol. It makes us feel really bad, and we get into this fight or flight, and it all leads to us quitting. And then we have to keep restarting instead of just staying consistent. And so March in our membership is all about consistency. And we have talked about this concept a lot, that if we can still do a little bit, if we can keep doing our bare minimums, then we don't have to feel that, right? So we don't have to get into that spiral of shaming ourselves, feeling like we're quitting, and then restarting, and that whole like cortisol, nervous system freak out. We don't want to do any of that. So if we've been doing really well with that, we can still feel a little bored, right? And so our body is having a natural dip. The season is having a change. Maybe we're staying the same, but we're having this dip of boredom. Maybe we haven't been doing what our goals are and we're just feeling like really behind. And so I want to talk you through some of what's happening just physiologically and mentally today so that we can decide what we're going to do about that. If we need to do anything about it at all. This is not a detox or like this big restart or reset. Our next challenge is coming up, but it's more this idea of like, hey, we've had a season and now we get to decide what we're going to do. So let's talk about physiologically sort of what's happening with us in the winter. So when we don't have as much sunlight, forget the fact that lots of people can have sort of seasonal depression, right? But sunlight regulates our circadian rhythm. That's our sleep-wake cycle. So if that's kind of knocked out of whack, then it can really influence everything. We've talked before about how important sleep is to our hunger hormones and everything else, but messing with our sleep really can start a lot of downstream effects that are really detrimental to our overall health and just our ability to stay consistent with either our weight loss or keep us consistent at a healthy weight. So sleep, do not underestimate how important that is, and just recognize that this season of time, this winter where it's not nice and sunny and warm all the time, is having an effect on that, and you really can't do anything about that unless you like seasonally want to go live somewhere else for the summer, which maybe that's everyone's dream. But this, again, is not a character flaw. Like, this is just happening and it's totally normal. We have less daylight, less light exposure. We're inside more. Maybe our outdoor activities that we really love to do are inaccessible to us right now, right? It's really hard to go for a walk if it's snowing outside or there's 2 feet of snow outside, or it's Louisiana winter, rains all the time. Okay. We maybe aren't as social as we were. So there's a little decrease in our social interaction as well. So all of these things you can see, like now we're messing with our sleep wake cycle. We're messing with our cortisol rhythm. We're messing with our dopamine and serotonin, right? Those things we get from exercise and from being connected to people, all getting a little bit out of whack. And so that is important to understand that this is not something we're doing. This is not us not being tough enough. This is just what's happening around us. Less sunlight, less dopamine, which is our motivation neurotransmitter, right? So it's affecting that. Less serotonin, that's our mood stabilizer, and it changes our melatonin, right, which is our sleep rhythm. So our nervous system is sort of gently shifting us because of all of those things to this conservation mode, right? Just like the bears, go hibernate. It's the same idea. So historically, winter has always been this time to store, slow down, conserve energy. And so we moved less. We rested more. We stayed closer to home. That's just evolution, right? And so our brain still is super wired for that. So all of this to say, this is not like a willpower motivation problem. This is just human evolution and how we're wired. So modern life does not care about any of those things, right? So we don't have extra time for our deadlines, and the expectations honestly don't change that much. If anything, there's sort of more on our plates during this time. So there is no hibernation from our duties that we and our life, right? Life, again, living in the wild, right? The wild that we live in right now does not care that our body is wired for hibernation at this point. So I just want you to recognize this mismatch of sort of what's going on with our brain and our body that is just hardwired, and why we might be interpreting that as an us problem. It's not an us problem. That is not an internal, like we are bad or wrong. We are not lazy, okay? Your body is not designed to perform identical output 365 days a year. Our body is designed to have these seasons, these lulls. Our biology is telling us it is time to rest, and so we cannot judge ourselves for that. We have to just plan. We have to know that that's normal and make a plan. Okay, so there's no judgment, and we are going to just understand that's happening, and now we can work around it. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the second layer, right? Which is what I sort of this negative self-talk that happens. So we have this thing that's biologically happening to us, but then we have, which is like a neutral circumstance for all my coaches out there, right? We have this neutral circumstance that, hey, it's a season that's different and our body is acting differently. But then we have all these thoughts about it, okay? All these judgments. That's like the cognitive piece. This is our self-talk. These are all these little thoughts that are running by in our brain. So we're moving less and we're outside less, and we're starting to maybe see some less visual cues of our progress, right? It's hard to see what's going on in your body when it's wrapped up in coats and sweaters, right? There's good and bad to that. So our momentum slows a little bit and our brain starts filling in all these blanks, right? And so this is where all our thoughts are coming in. I'm behind. I should have done more by now. Other people are ahead of me. I'm lazy. It's not working. I've totally failed already. I haven't followed any of my goals. I haven't done anything I was supposed to do on my calendar for my health. See, I can't stick with anything, right? This is what's happening. Winter really isn't the problem, right? Winter is a season. This all these things that are happening in our body aren't the problem. It's all this negative self-talk that we assign to it. Okay? Because what happens then is when we have all these thoughts that we're not doing enough, that we're behind, that we're failing, that we're bad, all of our cortisol ramps up, right? We start thinking we failed. Our body wants to not feel any of those things. So it wants to just stop everything, do like a hard reset. And then somehow we internalize that as that was a willpower motivation problem. I'm flawed. I need to be harder on myself. Right? So that's where we then have these behaviors that are very punishing and even more unrealistic than what we initially started out with. And then then we stop walking completely. We stop planning. We're eating comfort food. We're doing all those things. We're scrolling more. We're disengaging more, not because we're not capable of doing those things, but because this judgment has just totally drained our motivation faster than this season of winter ever could. Okay, so the problem isn't winter. Yes, things are different. That happens. It is our judgment about those changes and about our progress that then puts us in a hard stop. Okay, so this season feels different and we're going to adjust, but it's the second layer of all the self-talk and all of this shame and I'm failing when we quit. Okay, so this silent quitting, quietly quitting, people call it, happens around the end of February all the time, beginning of March. That judgment and that shame drains our motivation faster than any winter storm can do. Okay, so the problem isn't winter, it's the story we're telling ourselves about our own internal character that is the problem. Okay, so what do we need to do about that? All right. I just want you to understand the pattern. It is so important that you understand because once you realize this is not about you as a person, this is not a character or identity flaw, this is just a season of life, okay? Winter slows down. We have self-judgment. We say, forget it. And then we're like, oh no, I need tough love. We do this aggressive restart. We totally burn out. We quit again. And then it's repeat, repeat, repeat. Okay, so then March comes, the sun comes out. Now it's starting April, we're starting to get a little warmer and we panic. And then we're like, oh, I got to fix everything. And so now we go into super restrictive, right? This is like the yo-yo dieting, right? You can see the pattern. It makes total sense. And it makes sense why we did that before. Also makes sense how we can change it and not do it again. We get in the super restriction, download a new plan, buy all the new supplements, buy all the new clothes, track things obsessively. We're on MyFitnessPal. It is life or death, but it's fueled by shame. And shame does not sustain behavior. Okay? The intensity will fade and then we're tired and we're hungry and resentful and and life happens, right? We're out in the wild, things happen and it all starts again. So we don't need a detox. We don't need a restart. We don't need punishment. We don't need perspective. Winter did not ruin us, right? It just slowed us down a little bit, as it should. It is a time to kind of rest and rejuvenate, blanket up in that little cocoon so that spring comes and we can butterfly out. Okay? There's a season for everything. So March theme inside the membership is just this consistency, this just keep going. I picture Dory swimming around from Finding Nemo, right? Just keep swimming. Just keep doing. We don't have to be all in super aggressive. We don't need to fix everything. We don't need to have the same motivation that we do when the sun is shining and the weather is beautiful and we can be outside. We don't have to do that. We don't need to make up for lost time either. There's no lost time. Okay? We have our whole lives. There's no lost time. We are not behind. So all we need is just to maintain our consistency right now. That's it. We don't need to be super intense. Consistency over intensity. That is the whole theme for March. Consistency. Don't worry about intensity. So eat some protein at breakfast, walk a little bit, right? Go to bed a little bit earlier. Our body is trying to rest and hibernate and restore ourselves. So let's help it, right? Let's drink extra water, drink beautiful hot tea, right? So maybe we cut down on our alcohol here. Maybe we go to bed a little bit early. We lift something heavy a couple of times a week just to like remind our muscles that we're alive, okay? And we keep our bare minimum plan, our bare minimum anchors if we've been doing that, right? Which is nutrition, movement, and calm. So we're going to do a little bit of protein, we're going to do a little bit of movement, and we're going to do a little bit of mindset work. So either saying something nice to ourselves or doing some sort of calming thing. Think of this as preparing the soil, okay? Or the final stages of our cocoon. So we're going to be a plant and a butterfly, okay? For the next few months of all of these podcasts and everything else. Those are the two, latch on to whichever one feels good. If we're a butterfly, we're like wrapped up warm in our cocoon, okay? But we're going to have to emerge soon. And if we're thinking about planting the soil, okay, we're just like getting the soil ready, breaking off the ice, getting ready to, right? Getting ready to. Not quite yet, but we're in the soil. All right. It's not quite ready yet. And that's okay. We don't like yell at the dead grass in winter that it's not growing, right? We understand that's a season, like it's dead. That soil is going to get all the nutrients it needs, and then it's going to be ready to bloom beautiful things. So we don't scream at the seeds to grow. Okay. We don't have to have these dramatic restarts. We don't have to say all these mean things to ourselves about what we're not getting done right now. There is a season for everything. And if you think about how we treat nature, like let's treat our bodies the same way. We're not yelling at the butterfly that it's still in the cocoon. We're not yelling at the seed because it's not growing yet. Right? We tend those things and we take care of them, and we're like super loving to those things so that they can bloom or emerge more beautifully. So that's the season we're in right now. It's like we're still in the little cocoon. Okay. So that's where we are. Our winter body does not need punishment. Okay. It just needs some gentle momentum. It just needs to keep going. It needs to know that it's getting what it needs. So let's just make sure we're giving it what it needs. That is what I want for you. All right. So I did allude to spring is coming, and we do have a spring challenge coming up. Remember, this year I'm doing 4 seasonal challenges for everybody. This is not restrictive. This is not a 14-day cleanse. This is not a big, huge thing. It's going to be just 21 days. Okay? I'm going to have amazing guest coaches again. They're so generous with their time, and we're going to be talking about these things, about how we're getting ready to emerge, okay? And we're going to set some goals, and it's okay. So we're going to focus on some like letting go, decluttering, rebuilding, making a plan for how we want summer to go. So if you like think about, we're like helping the butterfly emerge. We're watering, we're like watching the little seeds start to bloom. All right? That's going to be our spring challenge. So if you want to come in there with me, I would absolutely love that. It's www.sugarfreemd.com forward slash spring challenge 26. And I will make sure that's in the show notes as well. But if you've been waiting for the right time, this is it. Okay. This is it. We are like making some decisions about maybe getting ready to emerge out of our little cocoon. And if you want help, I am ready for you. So remember, you are not behind. We are just in a season. Our body wants to like restore and like get prepared for the next season. So let's make sure we're giving it what it needs. And judgment is not that. Okay? Shame is not sustainable, and that is not what makes sustainable habits. We need to just recognize our body needs a little bit more right now, and it wants to do a little bit less. That is okay. We just make a plan for it. The real problem is that secondary level where we shame the crap out of ourselves for needing a little bit of time, for not being able to go full out 365 days a year. But that's not how our bodies are built, okay? Every single thing on this planet needs time to rest and restore. So just recognize that's the season. We're coming out of it soon. You're not behind. Everything is fine. Okay. I will talk to you next week. Okay. Steady thoughts, clear thoughts. Winter is not a character flaw. Okay. We're going to get through it and get over to that website and sign up for the spring challenge. All right, y'all. See you next week.